8 lakh crore. That is how much is being invested in the Indian AI space right now. Microsoft, Amazon, Reliance, Tata, the biggest names in the world are making their bets. And most retail investors are investing in the wrong AI stocks. They're chasing AI apps, chatbot companies, the same space where recently Builder.ai just went from $1.5 billion valuation to bankruptcy, where tens of thousands of startups have shut down since 2023. All the while when the real money is flowing somewhere else. And इसीलिए by the end of this video, you will know exactly what sectors to watch, which listed companies in the Indian stock market are poised to benefit the most, and how to identify the red flags that can stop you from picking the next failing AI startup. With that in mind, let's get right into it. If you're in a hurry, here is the thesis for the entire video. Infrastructure beats applications. And to understand it, we are dividing India's AI economy into 6 tiers. And the biggest problem is that everyone seems to be fighting over tier 5, the applications. AI writing, chatbots, image generators, apps, and coding. And that is exactly where the biggest learning over the last year, Builder.ai, was. We'll get into it, what it did, how it failed in a bit. And exactly यहीं पे ना major failures होते हैं. तो पूछोगे ऐसा क्यों? Because tier 5 में, before we get into the rest of the tiers, is where you're competing with the big giants. The Google, OpenAI and Amazons of the world, who are giving away for free what most people are trying to sell. The smart money, the big money, is between tier 0 to 3. Power, chips, data centers and cloud compute. The building blocks of AI where you and I can interestingly play our cards. So let me walk you through each tier and help you understand the market size, growth rates and listed players that you can back for each of these tiers. Tier 0 is the power infrastructure, because at the foundation of the AI economy is energy. Data centers that are power monsters. Most people don't realize this, but up to 40 to 50% of these AI data centers cost goes into running them, the power, electricity. And when you talk about India's AI infrastructure, India's data center power capacity was about 1100 megawatts in 2024, and we expect it to cross 2000 megawatts by the end of 2025, nearly doubling in just 1 year. एंड कंपटीशन बहुत इंटेंस है. इवन इंडिया के खुद के प्लेयर्स बहुत हार्ड कंपटीशन कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, राजस्थान इज ऑफरिंग 50% reimbursement on renewable costs. Maharashtra is guaranteeing 24/7 power supply. And as an investor, all of these places become sectors that you should be aware of. Power equipment, solar, battery storage, transmission infrastructure, and common sense tells us कि ये सब तो कोई AI stocks नहीं है. But all of them are riding the same AI wave. And while energy is the foundation, tier 1 is where the governments are putting serious money. Tier 1 is semiconductors. And semiconductors are the chips that make AI possible. Earlier, it used to be only a few countries that could make these chips, mainly Taiwan. But recently, India ने भी game में entry मारी है. There's even something called the India Semiconductor Mission, which has 76,000 crore का allocation. 10 projects have been approved, worth 1.6 lakh crore rupees combined. But the big one that has everyone interested is the Tata chip fab in Dhulera, Gujarat. 91,000 crore का investment, 50,000 wafers per month, and first production expected late 2026, that's this year. And then there is the Micron facility in Sanat. $2.75 billion का investment, 500,000 square feet of clean room, already ramping up. Now can you and I directly invest in these factories? Sadly no. जैसे Tata Electronics is not listed separately on the stock market. But here is the angle that most people miss. Each of these factories needs an ecosystem around them to function properly. Precision equipment, specialty chemicals, industrial gases, HVAC systems, maintenance services, and वो companies जो इन services को provide करेंगी इन data centers को, इन production facilities को, उनकी accounting books are poised to grow. So if you are thinking कि semiconductors की wave से हम कैसे फायदा उठा सकते हैं, think ecosystem. Industrial gas suppliers, precision engineering companies, construction firms with clean room expertise. Again, common sense कहता है कि ये तो AI companies नहीं है, but that is the real play and one catalyst that you can mark on your calendars. years is the Tata Dhulera production starting late 2026. And जब इस production facility से ये semiconductors के wafer ship होना start होंगे, the entire ecosystem benefits. Now tier 2 is where things get really interesting because that is where the numbers start speaking for themselves. Tier 2 is data centers. And let me give you the numbers. India's data center market was around $8 billion in 2024. It is projected to hit $24.78 billion by 2033. That is about 13% CAGR for a decade. Not bad. Right now, we have about 121 operational data centers. Another 87 are under construction. And Mumbai alone holds over 40% of the market. Mumbai is now the third largest data center hub in all of Asia Pacific. Only Shanghai and Tokyo are ahead. But here is where it gets interesting for investors. AI data centers are fundamentally different from regular ones. A typical server rack uses 10 to 15 kilowatts of power, but an AI GPU rack uses 50 to 120 kilowatts of power. That is 5 to 10 times more power, which means 5 to 10 times more heat. And this level पे तुम्हारे ये traditional ACs don't even cut it anymore. You need liquid cooling. Literally running coolant through server racks like a car radiator. And that is where there is a big opportunity hiding in plain sight. The data center cooling market in India is $2.4 billion today, expected to hit $7.7 billion by 2030. That is a 26% CAGR in a market where most retail investors are not even looking at. Itna ki even real estate players are pivoting. Anant Raj announced $2 billion for 300 megawatt of data center capacity. Unka stock has more than doubled since they've entered this sector. So when you are looking at this tier 2 data center plays, don't just look at the data center. Think about कि इनको cooling कौन supply कर रहा है, इनको infrastructure कौन supply कर रहा है, इनकी fire safety की management कौन कर रहा है, because that is where the margin is. Now tier 3 is actually the place where there is a listed stock that you can look at. Tier 3 is GPU cloud computing. In the world of AI, cloud computing and GPU access is where compute gets rented out. And India के case में there is one interesting company that you know about. L&T took a 21% stake at 1407 crores. And जब L&T इस type का पैसा कहीं डालता है, you pay attention. E2E has deployed 248 NVIDIA H200 GPUs, the largest H200 deployment in India. They've already won government contracts worth over 265 crores from the India AI mission. But here is why they're interesting from a business perspective. Unki pricing. They offer GPUs at 60 to 70% lower prices than Amazon or Azure. And for Indian startups जो अपना खुद का मॉडल ट्रेन करना चाहते हैं, that pricing is the difference between हम भी कर सकते हैं versus हम ये afford ही नहीं कर सकते. And you should also look at the bigger picture. Total GPU capacity in India has grown nearly 10x in 18 months, from about 18 exaflops to nearly 180 exaflops. That is real infrastructure being built. And E2E is positioned right in the middle of it. Now, I am not saying कि buy करो या sell करो, आपको अपना research खुद करना है. Because risk factors भी हैं, valuation has run up, but as a pure play on India's GPU cloud build out, there is nothing else listed like it. And यहाँ से game थोड़ा बदल जाता है because tier 4 and 5 is where most people lose money. Tier 4 and 5 are the danger zones. Tier 4 is foundation models, companies trying to build their own AI from scratch. India has their own players here like Krutrim, Sarvam AI, Bharat Gen. But let me give you something specific. GPT-4 cost over $100 million just to train. Stanford's AI index shows that the US produced over 40 notable AI models in 2024. China produced 15 and India has produced 0 globally competitive models yet. ये companies हर महीने 40-50 करोड़ रुपए burn कर देती हैं. Most of them are not even listed. And the ones that are, risk is enormous. And tier 5 is even worse. Applications, the AI chatbots, writing tools, image generators, and this is where most of the high-profile startup failures in the AI space in 2025 happened. The problem is something that people don't grasp, कि आप free के against compete कर रहे हो. So as an investor, you need to be extremely careful with these AI companies. अगर उनका only moat है कि हमारे पास अपना खुद का AI है, that is not a moat, it is most probably a death sentence. And speaking of death sentences, let me tell you what exactly went wrong with Builder.ai, because उसकी मदद से you will understand कि किसी भी AI stock को समझने के लिए क्या red flags हैं जिनका तुम्हें ध्यान रखना चाहिए. Most people already know this, but for the ones that don't, Builder.ai was the poster child of AI apps. $450 million रेज्ड, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने इन्वेस्ट किया, कतर के सॉवरेन फंड ने इन्वेस्ट किया, दे हैड अ पीक वैल्यूएशन ऑफ $1.5 billion and then it all collapsed. So let's break down exactly what went wrong, because these are your red flags for evaluating any AI company. Red flag number 1 is revenue versus claims. Builder.ai ने claim करा $220 million in revenue when their actual revenue was $55 million. They overstated by 300%. And lesson यहाँ पे बहुत simple है, revenue को पहले verify करो. Look at the audited financials, not just press releases. क्योंकि अगर कंपनी खुद के नंबर्स पे झूठ बोल सकती है तो तुम्हें नहीं पता कि वो और क्या छुपा रहे हैं. Red flag number 2 is asking the question कि क्या टेक्नोलॉजी सच में है भी या नहीं. Builder.ai had their AI called Natasha that could supposedly build apps automatically. What it turned out to be were 700 engineers sitting in India and Ukraine coding manually while customers thought कि ये मैजिक तो AI से हो रहा है. लेसन यहाँ पे भी सिंपल है, ask कि actually टेक्नोलॉजी क्या काम करती है. Because AI powered is a meaningless term. असली सवाल तो है कि actual automation क्या है, what part is still being done by humans, and if the company cannot explain it in a simple manner, you got to be suspicious. Red flag number 3 is the burn rate versus revenue debate. Builder.ai was burning $40 million every quarter with an actual revenue of $55 million for a year. ज़्यादा मैथ करने की जरूरत भी नहीं है. This does not work because if a company burns more in a quarter than what it makes in a year, it will need constant fundraising just to survive, and when that funding dries up, reality सामने आ जाएगी. Red flag number 4 is the concentration risk. Builder.ai owed $85 million to AWS, $30 million to Microsoft, and अगर ये couple of vendor relationships खराब हो जाते हैं, that could sink the whole company. So whenever you are evaluating a company, check the accounts payable, check vendor concentration, because one broken relationship should not be able to sink an entire company. Red flag number 5 is competing with free. Their product was low cost, no code app building, something that is now offered for free by multiple AI offerings. अगर Google, Microsoft, OpenAI कल को free में दे सकते हैं जो आप आज बेच रहे हो, that is not a business model, that is just borrowed time. And Builder.ai अकेले example नहीं है, there are many more. जैसे the Indian alternative to Twitter, who had a similar problem. उन्होंने $60 million रेस किया. They had 9.4 million users that dropped to 3.1 million in just 9 months. उनके फाउंडर्स ने तो बोला भी था कि हम बस months away हैं from beating Twitter, but वो जुलाई 2024 में खुद shut down हो गए. Now technically they were not competing with free, but they were competing with a global platform that had unlimited resources. Same problem in a different packaging. And then there is the cautionary tale that is still unfolding. Because for a more recent example, we have Krutrim. Bhavish Agarwal का AI venture, India's fastest unicorn, hit 1 billion valuation in record time. And तुम्हें बस थोड़ा सा गोल करने की जरूरत है to know what is happening now. The business head quit. Over 100 employees laid off in July 2025. उन्होंने बोला इसको strategic refinement, but in reality their AI app on Google Play Store has a little over 100,000 downloads. Now Bhavish is so committed to this कि उन्होंने pledge करे हैं अपने 450 crores of Ola electric shares to fund Krutrim's data center operations. Now I am not saying Krutrim will fail. Bhavish ने बनाई है पहले mega companies, but the pattern matches what we have seen elsewhere. और भी example हैं जैसे Subtle.ai, a Gen AI startup from Hyderabad, shut down in July 2025. Good product था, strong early traction था, but when customers did not convert to the paid plans, funding dried up and they had to shut down. CodeParrot was a YC-backed startup, raised $500,000 and went through what they called the pivot hell. Kept changing the product, confused investors and shut down in mid-2025. So before you invest in any AI product, you have to run through these 5 red flags. Revenue verification, technology verification, burn versus revenue, concentration risk and competing with free. अगर कोई कंपनी इनमें से एक भी badly fail कर रही है, you have to think twice. अगर वो multiple fail कर रही है, then you have to stay away. And now that you know what to avoid, let me give you the complete playbook that you can use to actually grow your money. इंडिया के AI इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में, इंडिया की AI बूम में, these are the 5 main plays that we need to consider. Play number 1 is infrastructure. वो market size that I mentioned, $8 billion जो poised to grow up to $24.78 billion for data centers, $2.4 billion going to $7.7 billion for coding alone. And it makes sense because उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि कौन सा AI मॉडल जीतता है. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude या फिर कोई इंडियन मॉडल जिसके बारे में हमने आज सुना भी नहीं है. They all need data centers. they all need cooling power, they all need infrastructure. Play number 2 is GPU cloud. Currently E2E Networks is the only listed pure play here, and इसका एक bull case भी है. L&T की backing है, government contracts हैं, 60 to 70% का pricing advantage है over global players. Bear case भी है, valuation has run up, competition serious होने वाला है, AWS and Azure अपने prices drop कर सकते हैं, and execution का risk is real. So as an investor, what should you watch in this play? Additional India AI mission के contracts, enterprise adoption के numbers and margin expansion. उनकी management is targeting 70% EBITDA at scale. Again, not a recommendation, बट अगर तुम्हारा टारगेट है प्योर प्ले जीपीयू क्लाउड कंप्यूट में, देन देयर इज रियली ओनली वन ऑप्शन राइट नाउ. प्ले नंबर 3 इज आईटी सर्विसेज दैट आर पिवटिंग टू एआई, एंड दिस प्ले इज इंटरेस्टिंग बिकॉज दीज आर एस्टैब्लिश्ड कंपनीज हु आर रीपोजिशनिंग देमसेल्व्स. TCS has set up a dedicated NVIDIA business unit. They are training thousands of employees on AI. Infosys has Topaz, their AI platform. They are integrating generative AI across all their services. And ये इसीलिए मैटर करता है because all of these companies have already established enterprise relationships. एंड जब कोई फॉर्च्यून 500 कंपनी, कोई बड़ी कंपनी एआई एस्टैब्लिश करना चाहती है अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, वो अपने एग्जिस्टिंग आईटी सप्लायर को ही कॉल करते हैं. सो व्हेन यू लिसन टू देयर अर्निंग कॉल्स नेक्स्ट, हियर इज व्हाट यू शुड कीप एन आई आउट फॉर. एआई रेवेन्यू एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल रेवेन्यू, डील विंस दैट मेंशन एआई और जेन एआई, एम्प्लॉय अपस्किलिंग नंबर्स, एंड जब ये नंबर्स बढ़ने लगते हैं, दैट इज योर सिग्नल दैट द पिवट इज वर्किंग. प्ले नंबर 4 is companies using AI well, because this is not about AI companies. This is about traditional companies जो AI यूज कर रहे हैं अपने margins improve करने के लिए. Look at ICICI Bank. They have developed software robotics across 200 plus, over 1 million fully automated transactions daily, 60% faster response times. या फिर quick commerce companies like Blinkit and Zepto who are using AI to forecast demand. AI को यूज करके they are predicting what you will order before you order it. And now with all that said, there is one more interesting question that has been bothering me, something that can change and shape the entire future of AI in India. Recently, Google gave Geo users 35,000 worth of Gemini Pro for free. OpenAI ने लॉन्च करा ChatGPT Go for free for a year. Airtel is distributing Perplexity Pro worth 17,000 to its users. So obviously हमें पूछना चाहिए कि Google, Perplexity, OpenAI जैसे players Indians को ये सारा सामान फ्री में दे क्यों रहे हैं? ये क्या चैरिटी वाली स्ट्रैटेजी है? Fact is, India has nearly 1 billion internet users, and here is what makes us valuable. 90% of new internet users in India speak regional languages first, and less than 2% of all AI training data covers these regional languages. So every time you chat with Gemini in English, every time you code switch between Tamil and English, you are helping train their model. And इनका गोल बहुत सिंपल एंड ऑब्वियस है कि जब आप यूजर्स को अपने प्रोडक्ट पर 1 साल के लिए फ्री में हुक करा लोगे, so you have already built enterprise level connections and predictions for decades to come. But what does this mean for investors? Simple. These free models create demand for infrastructure. More use का मतलब है more compute चाहिए. More compute मतलब more data centers, more GPU, more power. It all flows back to the tier system that we established between tier 0 and tier 3. And Indian government को भी ये दिख रहा है. India AI mission में already 10,372 करोड़ establish हो चुके हैं. Over 38,000 GPUs have already been deployed for Indian researchers and startups. And NVIDIA के एक summit in Mumbai में Yansen Huang ने कोट किया पीएम मोदी को that India should not export data to import intelligence. You should not export flour to import bread. The implication is कि domestic infrastructure for AI में massive investment आने वाला है, and that is exactly where the big money is going. December 2025 में Microsoft and Amazon together announced over 50 billion for India's AI infrastructure. $50 billion in just 24 hours. AWS alone has committed $12.7 billion. Reliance is building a massive AI data center in Jamnagar. Reports suggest करते हैं worth 20 to 30 billion dollars. अगर इसमें से ये lower वाला number भी सच है ना, that is the single largest investment in data centers in the entire history of India. India के semiconductor mission में 10 projects and 1.6 lakh crore approve हो चुके हैं, and ये सब कोई स्पेक्यूलेशन लेड मनी नहीं है. दिस इज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कैपिटल, पेशेंट मनी, मल्टी डेकेड्स वाले बेट. मुकेश अंबानी ने उसी सेम एनवीडिया समिट में बहुत अच्छे से इसको पुट करा दैट व्हेन यू डिवोट योरसेल्फ टू द गॉडेस ऑफ नॉलेज, the goddess of prosperity follow. The question is कि will you follow the prosperity where it is actually going? अगर ये वीडियो अच्छी लगी तो लाइक करो, शेयर करो, एंड अगर तुम्हें ऐसे और डीप डाइव्स, न्यू पर्सपेक्टिव्स एंड इनसाइट्स चाहिए ऑन द इंडियन मार्केट तो इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो, एंड आई विल सी यू इन द नेक्स्ट वन.